That was the best quiet down I've ever heard. Thank you. That was Elaine's grandson, Malcolm Kresse, and we thank you for opening up this service of celebration and the life of Elaine Kresse. I'm Alice Martin. I'm a chaplain as well as a member here at UUCQC. We welcome, and Sam's family welcomes everyone who has gathered together to remember and celebrate the life of Elaine Kresse, who was a long-time member of our congregation and a very beloved member. We welcome those on YouTube and those far and wide who were not able to be with us in person, very present in spirit. All are invited to a reception after the service downstairs for more stories, some hugs, and a lot of pizza. Right, Sam? A lot of pizza and good desserts. We begin by lighting of our chalice. Barb Thompson will read the lighting of the chalice as printed in your order of service, and if you would join along, our voices will be louder.
We light this chalice, which transforms wax into pure light and warmth, to remind us of our own living, transforming the stuff of this world into the love and activity of our daily lives. As we remember Elaine, may today bring forth transformation in ourselves, from grief to healing, from memory, wholeness, and from celebration, love. Please stand as you are able as we sing Elaine's favorite hymn, Blue Boat Home. The lyrics are in the order of service.
You may be seated. Elaine was a fierce advocate for the caring of our earth, and it is reflected in that song we all sang, The Blue Boat Home. The words that struck me from the song are these: "The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home." It led me to choose the following reading, written by Sandra Berry, Leave Taking. It suggests to us that our ending upon this blue boat home is just a segue to travel the whole universe, unencumbered and free. Leave Taking by Sandra Berry. Elaine, when the coming of your death becomes an awareness on the planet, some wondrous events begin. The word goes out through the universe that you are preparing to leave this place that you call your blue boat home. In the presence of your leaving the earth, it prepared to send you forth. The gravity that had held you so tightly began to lose its grip. It called, let loose, let loose, let go. The word was heard by the wind, and it promised to blow under you and push you. And the clouds heard, and they shouted out, you may land on us and float for a while. And then the rain said, I'll wash the air clean, and the stars each polished themselves to be brighter. And, Elaine, you let go. As you began to float, a squirrel noticed and remembered how you cared. You cared for so many around you. The squirrel told the rabbit, who told the turtle, who told the bird. She's coming, they whispered. The bird sang, and it was heard by a lone wolf, who, standing on a cold tundra, howling its appreciation for all you gave to so many. Some distant giant pine trees heard the howl and knew you were coming. They swayed, releasing their fragrance to bless you on your way. The fragrance was picked up by the swiftest of hawks, who flew high and told a passing eagle, she's coming. The eagle swooped and soared until, finding your spirit loose on the wind, carried it toward a joyous rainbow. The rainbow said, come, I've been waiting. The colors are all for you. When the moon heard this, it shouted, prepare, a life well living is approaching. The stars again finished their policing so that you could see your way. Your soul saw that light and knew it was going home. Home to the light, home to the sun, home beyond home, beyond home. And it met with all that it had always known, the silence and the brilliance of mystery, the source. The entire mystery burst with a splendor of welcome home. We have been waiting for you. The source, with all the ancestors gathered around, enfolded Elaine and danced in her coming. While far away in the world you had known, a group of your loved ones and friends gathered to speak your praises, sing to your leaving, and to forever remember. And so we do today. You know, we've used so many words in that reading and in our own greetings to each other and remembrances. The universe sings out Elaine's flight as we do. A life well lived, the generosity of giving, caring for others. And now we will add to those words we have already used, have a time of sharing. So we will start when Sam does. I'll let Sam tell it.
Okay, so that's more words than I said at my father's, because this is really hard for me. Give me a second. I can't even see right this second. And the more I'm... Okay. Before I play this, a few things I would like to say, and hopefully I get through them. First off, thank you all for being here today. Many of you know my mother from the many, frankly, too many meetings that she was involved with as a community organizer. From her working to bring Planned Parenthood to the Quad Cities, AUW, the NAACP, Unitarian Church, Bridge, which honestly I left out until so many Bridge players were here today, and many other groups that, frankly, I do know of, have listened to many times while driving around the country and listening to her explain to me what's going on in the world, because I could seldom get a word in edgewise. Sometimes I would show up to work and say, I'm pulling in and I need to go in, and she would keep telling me a story. So my mother once told me that she worked very hard to make sure that I love sports like my father. Then she got her revenge working equally hard to make sure that my son Malcolm loved the arts like she did. In 1975, and I could be wrong with the year, but we're going to go with it, she took me with my Aunt May and her friend Tony O'Connor to Europe to visit my cousin Shelley. In Austria. It was in Italy that I ordered my first beer. Well, I was trying to tell the waiter that my mother did not need this really large beer that I saw other people drinking. And what resulted was that I got served a beer, and that, of course, my mother and my Aunt May drank it for me. In 1981, we took a family train trip with my grandmother Campbell out west for my father and I to see some baseball games, and then to stop in Nevada and gamble before visiting my great aunt Roxanne in Utah. Well, of course, I don't remember if it was Reno or Las Vegas, but I do remember winning a very large stuffed bear at Circus Circus. And then my parents made me leave it behind because it was too big to travel back on the train. Well, frankly, I never let her forget that bear. And so I'm letting her remember again today that I still remember the bear. And I guess, they're right. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Finally, she never allowed me to celebrate her 80th birthday. I was allowed to have a party for her on her 90th. Well, good luck with that now. Because she was going to live longer, as long as her mother and my Aunt May, who lived well into their late 90s and 100. Even though she and I had many long talks, mostly me listening to stories of board meetings, disbelief of what's happening to our country right now, or adventures of the trip, of what I call the triplets, Sue, Tony, and her. We never talked about what she wanted for today. So keeping with the current Kresse tradition, we're having Harris Pizza because I didn't know what else to do, and it's what we did, frankly, for my father's, which I did kind of know what to do then. So what I'm going to play for you, I hope it doesn't bother anybody to hear her voice. But after she passed, one of her former students, who is frankly like a sister, Becky Irving, shared this with me. And honestly, I thought it was perfect. Because those of you that know what she did for others, in her crazy special way, And hopefully this plays correctly. It does help if I turn this sound.
Sorry, I didn't call you back yesterday. It was a strange day and and a funny day. A lady came and asked me for a ride, I guess. She had missed her bus and said she could catch it again at North Park. And I followed that bus all the way out to Walmart, and it never stopped for anybody. So finally I just took the woman where she wanted to go and laughed all the way. Bye-bye.
Yeah, some random stranger that she ran into asked her for help in a ride, and she gave it. So, thank you. I actually made it through this. Surprising.
We will now have a time of sharing of remembrances for Elaine for those who would like to share. If you would come down one of the far sides, and if enough of you just form a line behind it, and we will use the mic there on the floor, and tell us who you are and how you knew Elaine, and then share your story. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a detailed person. Right there.
Is it working? Very good. Hi, I'm Scott Kresse, the eldest stepson. So Elaine, in my view, was a superhero. I mean, there's no other word that really encapsulates her, in my view. She's an educator, a mother, the very definition of community organizer as far as I'm concerned. But she was a leader. That's really what she was about. So we want to ask you for your stories because it'll add more layers to what Elaine represents. But for me, and I want to talk about my relationship, I think really Shelley is about the only one that really remembers her getting married. My first clear recollection of Elaine, which I think is an actual recollection as opposed to added memory, is being right here, her marrying my father. I was a confused little boy that day, I have to admit. I was 8, she was 22. Can you imagine being a 22, a newlywed, with an 8-year-old in the house? I can't. It's a much more common thing now. But in fact, I can't imagine it personally. Elaine and I talked more than a couple times that, in fact, we kind of grew up together. And if you think about it, at 22 and 8, yeah, we're different in age, but as we both grew older, we realized we were growing up together. So I had been spoiled to that point. My grandmother was a really good cook. She was one of those classic Iowa farm cooks where, they're common food, but with amazing ingredients and simply prepared, and very little chili powder in the chili, I have to admit. My biological mother, Sue, was a spectacular cook. I mean, really spectacular. There was legendary, her Christmas Eve, Christmas night dinners. In fact, by the time she moved to California, more people were coming. I mean, it was amazing. Friends of my brothers would just show up because it was Christmas night dinner at Sue's house. Trust me, it was great. Elaine's cooking, not so much. Not so much. I have to admit it, okay? Back in the day, she was 22. She was probably cooking for the first time for a family, right? That said, it seemed in my recollection, how memory works, is that it was like Spanish rice for dinner every night. Does anybody eat Spanish rice, even the Spaniards? At any rate, it was like every meal. It was a challenge for a boy. But what really got me about her cooking, frankly, is cutting onions. I swear she took a knife to an onion, whack, whack, and she was done. It was done, okay? In fact, I have to say, well, because of that experience as a young man, I learned how to cut onions myself. I did, and my wife will tell you, I still obsess about cutting onions, right? So that said, on Dax's birthday, we were having, or near it, it was almost my last conversation with Elaine was about cutting onions, no kidding. And she said, you know, a year or so ago, I learned how to cut onions, and we joked about it. It was really funny, okay? So Elaine is all about layers. Please come up and tell us about your layers. And of course, as everybody knows, onions are all about layers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elaine's grandson, one of her many grandsons. I just wanted to share that she was a teacher, as most of you know, and even in the summers when she took me and Travis, my cousin Travis, on road trips, she would even teach me how to read, and I'll never forget, excuse me, her reading Berenstain Bears and like Frog and Toad books with us, and she was just a selfless woman that always cared about everyone else.
Thank you. I'm Pat Higbee, and I'm co-president of the Iowa Association of American University Women. And so we're one of those groups that your mom spent a lot of time with. And I always think it's so interesting that she did so much work for women and girls. And she had 5 sons. So maybe she was missing those girls, but she was always standing up for them. And so at both the Iowa board meetings and I know in her local AAUW as well, she made a great difference. Thank you.
You guys, and then Maggie will be next.
Hello, I'm Alice Traylor.
And I am Molly Tegland. We are members of this UU congregation. Before we begin our tribute to Elaine, we wish to acknowledge the help of friends near and far who provided many words to describe Elaine. So thank you, Catherine Allen, Kathy Bowman, Linda Goff, Marcy Doyle, Susan Perry, and John Halliday.
To begin, Elaine was someone that you expected to see every time you came to church. Her death was a shock, is a shock still, reverberating around these walls, particularly at this time of year. You see, Elaine was an integral part of the stewardship team, and this is when we rally our congregation to renew our pledges. One theme of this pledge season is to think about how we give of our time, talent, and treasure.
Regarding time, Elaine joined this congregation along with her husband Sam in 1962. That's 63 years. Elaine didn't just give time and talent to the stewardship team, but to many events and committees in those 63 years. She championed social justice activities, being fierce in defending her beliefs. She was a feminist and worked to champion women's rights.
Some of her talents have been described as being dedicated, thoughtful, and hardworking. As a leader in many groups, she was described as analytical, focused, and persistent. And I'll add talkative since that one was already mentioned. Elaine was always reliable, trustworthy, and passionate. Elaine also showed her sense of humor with a bit of an ironic laugh.
It wasn't just time and talent that Elaine gave to our church. she also cultivated treasure. She loved bridge and found a way for her large bridge club to rent part of our building. This created a wonderful, pardon the pun, bridging of the larger Quad City community into our own. Elaine once related how much they loved the space since it had a kitchen and a number of restrooms.
Okay, now for my props. Okay. Those in our congregation will recognize these and our mugs because Elaine got up and would advertise this. If you ever wondered where these treasures came from, well, yes, of course, Elaine. She was proud to be a UU, and so she found and she promoted a website where all of us could get great swag to show our pride and support for our congregation. This also provided a bit of treasure into our treasury. Elaine also came up with another website where we could order holiday wreaths and garlands. This too added to our treasury. Elaine was always looking for ways to help to add to the church's coffers, but in the end, our best treasure was Elaine. She will be missed. There is a newer member who has a memory which she would like me to share with you, and this is from Cherie Defoe. Here are some thoughts about Elaine to share. I love flowers, and I wanted to make a flower arrangement for Elaine that was beautiful and elegant like she was. By the time I finished it, I was pretty weepy, and I just couldn't stop thinking about how vibrant and full of joy and enthusiasm she was. It was so sad thinking about how she was such a part of everything in the congregation, and now she was gone. Then I also realized I still had a lot of important things to do for other people that day. And it was like I heard a voice saying, well, that was very nice, but now you need to get on with it. I mean, she was practical. So as much as we miss her, we are just going to have to get on with it. And hopefully with some of the energy and enthusiasm and joy that was Elaine, I think that is what she would want. I'm so grateful to have known her, Cherie. And I want to note that Cherie created the bouquet that we see in the back. Thank you.
When Alice Martin asked Alice and me to offer the first memories of Elaine, I said, sure. Then, when I started to put my thoughts together, I realized I actually didn't know Elaine well at all. For perspective, Scott and I were in youth group together in this congregation, LRY, Liberal Religious Youth, a long time ago. I had no idea there were a total of 5 brothers. What a lively household that must have been. From Sam the first to Sam the second, Elaine was outnumbered by males. But I'm sure she handled it well. Elaine was a force of her own. She had definite opinions, which she defended with eloquence and enthusiasm. Elaine loved words. She loved this church and supported it in so many ways. First and always, by being here, by showing up. Thanks. Thanks, Elaine.
Good morning. My name is Mike Guston. I'm with the Davenport NAACP, and I'm the president. To the family, I just want to offer my condolences, and I would be remiss if I didn't come up and say something about Elaine. She was a very staunch advocate for equal rights, social justice, And I can tell you, there was some times that we would have some meetings, and after the meetings, Elaine would call me, and she would say, Michael. And everybody normally called me Mike. And I know that when she called me Michael, we were going to have a conversation. And so that conversation lasted a little while. And I enjoyed what Elaine had to offer us in the way of her time. And I just want to say to the family, thank you for allowing her to be with us and to offer her insight. And she was just a true person, and she was always direct, honest, and we're going to miss her over in the NAACP and all she stood for. She was just, I mean, phenomenal when it comes to standing for social justice. And when my wife told me that she had passed, it was like a tornado had hit me. And so, once again, my prayers are with you all. Thank you very much.
I'm Maggie Tinsman, and I was the first female on the Scott County Board of Supervisors, and I served in the Senate for 18 years. But the most important woman in Scott County and in Iowa is Elaine, because she has been part of and made very important the American Association of University Women. She was an officer both at the state level and the local level. In fact, she was the chairman of the Scott County American Association of University Women. Today, truly, she was very, very welcoming to me and asked me to be part of this group. And I didn't know anything about this group, but she made it so that it was important to me. Yes, Elaine was a wonderful promoter for AAUW and was the pride and joy for the organization. I hope you all realize that, and may she rest in peace.
I'm Sue Jorgensen. I met Elaine 25 years ago. I was state president of AAUW at the time, and Elaine was on my board, and I have leaned heavily on Elaine for 25 years as a close friend and associate. One of the things that she contributed to AAUW was her passion for mentoring young women. And when I visited the Davenport branch, I was very amazed at how much money you had in an endowment to be used for certain things. And one of the things that occurred, maybe, and those of you that are here can correct me, I think it was about 10 years ago that she enlisted probably 6 or 7 young women from the University of Iowa to attend a leadership conference in Washington, D.C. And as a result, we have those young women who are leaders across the state now. Some of them are very involved as leaders in AAUW. I wish I had prepared something. Just recently, I told Elaine, I wish you lived closer. And I actually looked into moving to the senior living center here in Davenport. And I couldn't afford it, but it was on my list of things I would love to do, just so I could enjoy her friendship more. She would come to Cedar Rapids occasionally and spend the day, and we enjoyed going to the museum and out to eat and various things. What else can I say about her? Sam brought his mom to an AAUW event when his son was about this big. So that's the son that played music for us today. So she was a dear friend. We all have to go somehow. And I'll tell you, she made her exit very quickly, and it leaves the rest of us kind of dumbfounded, but what a way to go. No. And I loved this song. I loved it. Actually, I'm a sailor, and our very first sailboat was blue. And my and that'll be the song they sing at my celebration of life, and my family will all be crying in the aisles. We sailed on Clear Lake, and then afterwards bought bigger boats, and sailed from Waukegan, Illinois, to the Bahamas, and spent a year there. So the blue boat's going to be in my service. Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't come prepared to speak, but my name is Karen Ward, and I'm here representing the Daughters of the American Revolution chapter here in Davenport. You know, women is the theme again. So one of the biggest things Elaine has done for us in the past few years is work with the naturalization ceremony. It is a moving event for you that have not been. There's one coming up on March 27th. And that's kind of how I found out about the passing, is that I was notified something about that. She was working on it. She was supposed to be meeting with a lady at the courthouse 2 days later. And we will all truly miss Elaine and her advocate work for all of us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Withacombe. I've been part of AAUW for almost 40 years. I've known Elaine almost that long. I would like to give you a slightly different perspective. All of you have been talking about how wonderful she was in the community, the church. I agree and celebrate that. She taught me that over the years. But I have a personal memory. I lost my husband suddenly, and the Monday after our funeral, I had an AAW meeting, and I couldn't decide whether to go, but I did go. When I walked in the room, she opened her arms, put them around me, didn't say a word, but I could tell from the warmth that she cared. And I think that was important to her with every person she met. Anybody in the community, anybody in her church, anybody in all the organizations. I will miss her greatly.
I didn't know Elaine very long. I came to this congregation as music director just 2.5 years ago, but she was a big jazz fan. Nobody's spoken about that yet. She was a big organizer with polyrhythms. She was instrumental, in bringing polyrhythms to this space, and she loved it whenever I played Mingus or Miles or Duke Ellington. So I chose the postlude Billy Strayhorn in Elaine's honor.
I thought I could talk. I'm sorry. Mrs. Kresse. She was one of my best friends in the whole world. Like, I knew her. I feel like I know so many of you because I don't live around here. I live in Florida. I flew up here. I almost missed the ceremony because the plane was late. And she would have thought that was funny. I've known her for a very long time. She was going to be in my wedding. And I had recently asked her if she wanted to officiate instead. And she said, oh, I'm going to be your maid of honor. And I was like, of course, I love that. It's perfect. Because she was just everything. I met her when she was my sister's teacher. And she taught there was a group of like girls and she was supportive, and I don't know what they did. My dad said they were liberals, so it was quite horrifying that Melissa joined in with the likes of them. But then later on, Mrs. Kresse had rotator cuff surgery, and she needed somebody to come and clean her house, and Melissa had helped a little bit, and she said, hey, you should come over. And so I came over there, and then I started, and with all the liberal ideas and stuff too. It was pretty crazy. I said we spent countless hours together just laughing and working in her Campbell colored kitchen. And I remember one time, it was like 3 months after I had started, she asked me, have you been short sheeting Sam's bed? And I was like, what? I didn't know what that was. It was my first time housekeeping or anything, and I didn't know. And then she was like, well, she's like, show me how you make the bed. So I showed, and I was tightening the sheets all tight around. I wanted it to be nice. And she's like, you're short sheeting him. He can't get his feet in. And he thought I was pranking him the whole time. And he was a man of few words. So I had really gotten him riled up after a few months for him to actually call me out on it. It was funny. Me and my best friend Brittany painted her whole house green because she decided to be feng shui. That was very fun. We joined every cause that she wanted us to go on. She would always say, oh, we should go do this. And I'd bring a bunch of my friends along. And she was just so infectious. She gave herself to the world and truly made the world a better place for being in it. And she made my life better. She was very funny. She was just this paradox of a person. I didn't understand her at first. She loved greyhounds, and she even retired 2 of them with her. But then she also would go to the racetracks and bet on them. And I thought I thought you didn't like both. And she's like, oh, you can like both, that's fine. She voted for Republicans, she voted for Democrats. And she told me it's a person, and it was just like, oh, this is very radical thinking. And she was just so different. I just was sucked in by her magnetism. She was so infectious and so wonderful. She had me go back to school. She worked with me through my crazy dating life in my 20s until I met my now fiance. And she helped me with all that, and well, that sounds pretty bad. She'd listen to all my date stories. And she would always say she was just like me, and she couldn't say no to anything because everything's just so darn interesting. So she just kept saying yes to everything. I remember I was cleaning in her living room, and she was trying to explain Unitarian church, and I came from a very different type of church, and it was very regimented. And she was like, well, what do you do at the church if you don't pray, and what does the pastor preach about and stuff? And she's like, well, it's about community. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. What are you physically doing? And she's like, come to church. And then that's what I did. And then I joined the church, and then she got me on the pledge drives. And then I was cleaning the church and doing all that. You just would give her an inch and she'd drag you another mile. She was just so wonderful. My very last conversation with her, I was concerned. My neighbors, we moved to Florida, and we moved down by some best friends, and I was like, they're moving, and I'm sad, and kind of working through my life, and she's telling me things about her life, and she's like, well, who's your community now? You need to have a community. Build your community. And I was like, okay, let me think about that. Let me get back to you. And so I will work on that for her. She was also wonderful because she visited me at both my houses. And now it just meant so much. She flew all the way to Florida. She brought Tony, and she just loved you. That was so much fun. It was such a good trip. I can't go through all the stories. I can't stop crying. I wanted to end that. Every time the world would seem off kilter, or things weren't like going the way that you'd really want them to, she'd come back and she'd say, well, all you can do is laugh. And that was like the one phrase I just remember her saying all the time, and I think of that all the time, and I was trying to go through my voicemails and see if I could find one of her saying that, but I just hear that echoing my voice, and I think that's what I'm gonna take from her. She just laughed her way through life, and I just absolutely treasure her. So thank you for sharing your mom with me.
We're her grandsons, Malcolm. But then you guys can hear me. We're her grandsons. I'm Malcolm. This is Dax. And the biggest memories for myself are when we were growing up, she would always take us on what she would call the mystery trips and drive across the country to who knows where until we got there. She would know. We wouldn't know. It was terrible. But through just 2 years of driving continuously every year, something new, her favorite thing was when myself and my brother would sing along in the car together, because it was the only time that we got along. So her favorite song is the one that we are about to do. Also, I am sick, so ignore that. Just a second. Sorry. All right, you ready?
I think.
Okay.
Did I abuse her or show her disdain? Why did she run from me? If I should lose her, how shall I regain the heart she has won from me? Agony beyond power of speech, when the one thing you want is the only thing out of your reach.
High in her tower, she sits by her hour, maintaining her hair. Life and becoming, and frequently humming a light-hearted air. Agony, far more painful than yours, when you know she would go with you, if there only were doors. Agony, oh, the torture they teach.
What's as intriguing
or half so fatiguing as what's out of reach?
Am I not sensitive, clever, well-mannered, considerate, passionate, charming, as kind as I'm handsome?
And heir to a throne, you are everything maidens could wish for.
Well, I know.
Do I know? Let's be mad. You know nothing of madness. till you're climbing her hair and you see her up there as you're nearing her, all the while hearing her. Agony, misery, woe, it's different for each.
Always 10 steps behind.
Always 10 feet below,
And she's just out of
reach. Agony that can cut like a knife. I must have her to wife.
I don't necessarily have any of this organized, but I never expected to have to figure out what my greatest memories of my grandma were right away. But I've written down a lot of them, and they might not make sense, and I have to try to remember why they make sense to me. On the theme of women, I'll start. I remember my grandma gave me my first girlfriend. I don't remember how old I was, but it was at Lake Geneva summer camp or something. But it wasn't really a girlfriend, but she told me it was. And then she gave me my first princess, which was when she took me to Disney. I think I was in 8th grade. And it's very weird how many things have worked out, but we were both wearing yellow shirts, and Grandma, we went to eat smorgasbord, which is what she was very happy that they had at, it was at Universal Epcot, and the princess was also wearing yellow, so we have a picture of all three of us wearing yellow, and she said, "Oh, you go walk around with the princess," and I was, okay, I did it, and there's a great picture of us all in yellow. When on the final phone call I had with my grandma, I told her it's all the little things that seem to matter, even though she was such a part of so many big pictures. And so some of the little things are the trips that we took, from traveling to Hot Springs, Arizona, to seeing so many musicals and Broadway shows and all the little shows, to her taking a little interest in anything that I said, whether that meant I like rocks. Now this whole summer's Dax go collect rocks and fossils and dig for them and have fun. She instilled work ethic in me when I was young, rubbing her feet for 10 cents a minute, which meant I only lasted a few minutes. She got upset with me while we were in Orlando, Florida, because we went to an elder hostel, and she thought I was really into Harry Potter. And I told her right as we got there, I know nothing about Harry Potter, but I like Universal Studios amusement park. And so while we were there, I got lost with a friend, but she found us eventually, and she was happy to have found me. But I think she should have known that I might have gotten lost, because from her musical expertise, I was born in Mason City, and so she knows that's where trouble is with a capital T. This little thing is, I had my first cappuccino with her, even though I don't drink coffee. When I told her that I wanted a dog, she got me and my brother plastic little sleeping dogs and said, "There, you have a dog now." And I still remember visiting them whenever I would visit. For the past couple of years, I've been working through college, and pretty much every day that I drive, I would call her for close to an hour and just talk about, mostly listening to her, but when I would share things about information, about, like the classes I'm in and the different histories I was learning. I never thought that the week after my grandmother passed, I would be sitting in Chinese politics, tearing up over how she had told me that Chiang Kai-shek is the good guy, which is true depending on what you know about history. I'll miss not getting to know how she made her sweet and sour pork recipe and her making me ham salad and tricking me into eating tomatoes that I thought were apples. So overall, thank you for the little things. And while Sheldon Cooper would call you Meemaw, you'll still always be my G-Maw. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I loved that someone brought this shirt up. And for those of you who are in the back, the main theme on this shirt is that to be on the side of love. And Elaine found ways to be on the side of love in everything that she did, whether it was the love of nature, whether it was the love of her congregation, certainly the love of her family. For the love of women, she worked so hard. For the love of justice, for the love of community. When someone who is so hardworking as Elaine leaves this world, the people that are left behind have to follow in their footsteps and also find a way in your own lives to be on the side of love. Elaine would be horrified if we all just sat and talked about her without getting up off our butts and doing something. What I know of Elaine is that she would have wanted you all to find something that you can get behind and lean into that love.
Thank you to so many, and even those who share their stories in your hearts. Thank you for being present today so that we can expand this universe and find peace. We have used a lot of words as our vehicle of communication, but the undeniable impact that Elaine has had on so many is really beyond our words. The imprint of Elaine's life is found within us as we strive to live life to the fullest, as we give away our gifts, as we care for those whom are the least of these, my brethren. These are the footprints etched into our hearts to be with a person as they are, to listen, to care, to reach out, to be present in the moment, and to love. These are the intangibles, the profundity of which Elaine has left us with, which are never extinguished upon her death, but they are inflamed within us to burn brighter, grow deeper, extend further, and matter to another one, time and time again. Elaine is no longer here to remind us to care for each other as we say goodbye to her physical presence, and have sent her on her flight to wherever it may have taken her. We have expressed our gratitude, our love, our thankfulness for how she enriched us, and we have remembered, honored, and celebrated her time amidst us, and now we send her off on that journey. Remembering in our first reading, Sandra Berry, in her reading Leave-Taking, left us with these very last words. As Elaine comes upon the end of all beginnings and the beginnings of all endings, all the ancestors gathered around and enfolded Elaine and danced with her coming. I have taken the liberty to add this next paragraph. Amidst all of this welcoming, there was a sudden silence because Elaine spoke and asked for quiet. And in the shortest sentence she's ever said, she says, "I have given all I had. I have nothing left. But there are others who will carry on." Elaine is no longer where we can touch her or see her, and that we must grieve. The profundity of the suddenness of Elaine's death was overwhelming for many who heard of it. But we do so as a people with the belief that this universe of abundance and continuity, whatever that source of this vast universe you might want to call it, it is not all about endings, but it is as well about beginnings. Let us believe that there is nothing lived that does not pave the way for the next thing to be lived, carried forward by those who were imprinted by the grace and the love of Elaine. Let us believe that eternity is in our hearts, and the seeds planted in love that Elaine left us will be with us always. Let us know that Elaine has not left us, but is within us, encouraging us, supporting us, loving us still. And in the big circle of life, there is our sorrow, but there is our joy, and everything in between. May we live it, thankful that Elaine has shown us the way. Amen. We will now, when I asked Sam for Elaine's favorite songs, right away he said Blue Boat Home, but then he said Valor. This is a song that in the Unitarian tradition a long time ago, but then Elaine had been here for 60 years. It was always a song the community that gathered would sing ourselves out with. And the words are in your insert, and Gates is going to play it through once, and we will sing the verses twice. And may we stand in community and celebrate. You may be seated. We will now extinguish our candle as Barb reads the words that are printed in the order of service, and let us read them in unison.
May the light we now extinguish inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve and not to take. For the light we extinguished is now inside of us, kindled through the life of our beloved Elaine. Let this be so.
And now, may the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which triumphs over death, be in us and among us now and forever. Amen. Gates will play a postlude, and we will then go dine together.